Transgender is an umbrella term. Let's talk about it. I don't know, every once in a while I get the urge to really, talk about these issues. It's just kind of, every so often I'll just go online and just look up, what I guess, so just certain, I guess esoteric topics regarding transgenderism. And it's just kind of funny that, I've noticed that more often that the word transgender is also used synonymously with the word transsexual. And that, when someone's trans, that automatically means that they, want to transition hormonally, that kind of thing. So that's just very interesting that that's how the phrase is used now. But also, let's not forget, transgender is an umbrella term. It encompasses many different things on a spectrum. Hey Kim, how's it going? So basically, you've got, cross dressers, transsexuals, drag queens. Yes, I'm putting them in here, non binary people, and so forth. It's not transgender, it's not just one thing. Everybody always wants to make it out like, oh, it's just transgender, it's another word just for transsexual. No, you can still be, I guess, part time, if you will, as far as another gender is concerned, or as far as expressing yourself as a different gender than the one that you were, I guess, assigned at birth, as you will. You don't have to go and do all the changes. It's not like an all or nothing kind of deal. And that's just something that's a little bit lost. There's all this compassion, and then there's all these pushing for, there's all this pushing for, you know, transgendered people and transsexuals to transition, but I'm not really seeing a whole lot of support for any other person on the spectrum. Granted, transsexuals have it, a great deal rough because they do like legal name changes, that kind of thing. Hey Monica, how's it going? But it's quite crazy that everything's kind of becoming now. Transgender is all about the transsexualism, and then now you're starting to see videos about people that regret transition, and then a bunch of comments saying, "Well, trans is a mental illness," and it's like, okay, what the hell? Again, normally I don't focus on so much negativity, but it's just I don't know. I was watching this kind of, I guess either, I mean, it was what Danish or Holland, I think it was, somebody that somehow they had a job, they knew how to take care of money, they knew how to take care of themselves for the most part, was trans, and fought with the doctors to transitioned, and then decided to detransition because they had more anxiety after transition than they had before they transitioned. It was the person was male to female, but it's just very interesting that people, and then all of a sudden they claim, oh, I'm not mentally all there. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody has to be mentally all there and that there's different degrees of mental, I guess, capacity, as you will, mental awareness. But I mean, if you have the capacity to seek out a doctor for yourself, take care of bills, and not be in some kind of straitjacket, and obviously feed yourself, clothe yourself, buy yourself clothes without any kind of assistance from anybody else. You kind of sit there, you can't really want to detransition and say, hey, I'm mentally ill or I wasn't, the doctor should have stopped me. And that's what I'm kind of realizing with a lot of these videos that are coming out. Though it's like, oh, it's the doctor's fault. The doctor should have told me this. The doctor should have stopped me. It's like, okay, first of all, everybody expresses their gender, whatever it is, differently. The doctors, if you tell them that you want to do what you want to do to your body, you're free to do to your body what you will because it's your body. I mean, granted, it helps to, see a therapist that, first. But if the therapist is like, go ahead and do it, and if you're really adamant about doing the thing, then there's not really going to be anybody to stop you. You can't turn around and say, oh, well, hormones and surgeries ruined my life because now, well, any surgery that you do, whether it's trans related or not, or, gender conforming or not, you're putting yourself under the knife. There's always going to be a risk. Though it's kind of interesting that these stories that come out, oh, the doctor didn't tell me this, the doctor didn't tell me that. But it's like, why does the doctor need to tell you anything? Well, you can't do the research by yourself. I understand that back in the 80s and 90s, maybe research was a little bit harder to come by, but especially nowadays, it's just like, you can look up what hormones or what surgeries do to people. They have videos on YouTube now. They have all this other stuff. And then it was, and the other guy was like, when he went to see like a therapist back in like 1999, it's like they told him that, or they was under their, I guess, discretion that he wasn't trans. But the thing is, and it's like, okay, you're gonna let a piece of paper tell you who you are, even if you have mental, I guess, let's say illness in some way. It's kind of interesting because I mean I know again I normally don't leave comments on negative videos, but it's like like nobody wanted to agree with me whatsoever. They were just like, oh well, you seem you're trans, and so you're like you're giving into the delusion just like everybody else. It's just like everybody else is pushing the agenda is. It's like who's pushing the agenda because there seems to be some kind of thing with the conservatives about kids, more and more children coming out as trans before puberty and putting them on medication before puberty. But it's like, okay, I've never been inside a store and had a mother or father or any kind of parental figure argue with their kids regarding, their gender. I mean, I've been to supermarkets, you know, the movies, so on and so forth. Where's this epidemic that the conservatives and that the are coming from? Where are these things? Because it's always been the fact that the study, 1% of trans people regret their decision to transition, and now they're saying, oh, the possibility or the percentage is actually much higher, but the liberals and the people that are pushing the agenda don't want you to know that stuff. And it's like, okay, well then why did you tell us? What did you do that, to help get clarity on your gender before you decided to transition? Not what the doctor told you. What kind of research did you do beforehand? Nothing, right? Oh, I'm mentally ill. I didn't realize what I was doing. There was no one to sit there and stop me because I was too mentally ill. Okay, you were able to sit there again and take care of your finances, hold down a job, even though it might have been tough with dysphoria, but hold down a job, buy your own clothes, go talk to the doctor, somehow even if the doctors, gave you pushback, bypass the doctor in some way, right? You were able to structure your story, so you're able to plan ahead to structure your story to get them to say what you want, what you needed them to say, or the letter to write, so that you could transition. So if you're able to plan ahead, despite having this mental illness, as you claim, or mental incapacity, you were able to plan ahead, use your own money to fund surgeries, and buy your own clothes, so on and so forth. And now you're, oh, I didn't know what I was doing? Bullcrap. You might not be mentally all there, but you knew what you were doing when you did all that stuff. If you didn't do your research, it's your own damn fault. And I'm not gonna have, not that I can do anything myself as a whole. I mean, I can't control everything everybody else does, but I mean, I'm saying I'm not gonna have, you know, I guess the people that are, transition and are fine, have to go back to Harry Benjamin standards to where you need to take the real life test for, 3 billion years before you can go on hormones, or, oh, you need to see a therapist for, 5 years before you can do XYZ, or we need to make sure that this is for you. Okay, like I was saying, like I said in a previous video a few months ago, we give children candy. Okay, and Halloween and other things for birthdays, celebrations, whatnot. Candy, is kind of, I guess, bad for you more or less, and it, I guess restructures the body and cells, and could be linked to cancer. So you're not going to tell me that trans people are ruining their bodies because they're going on hormones. Here's the thing about both men and women. You both have estrogen and testosterone. Only the levels are different between the two genders. So when you go on hormones, whether that's pill form or injection form, it's not really the medication itself that decides what to do and how to run your body. You're basically when you're on hormones, your body picks it up as a signature and says, "Oh, we're doing this now. Okay." Your body is changing based on what signals you're giving it. And so therefore, you can't really sabotage yourself. It's not like, because I mean, if they weren't supposed to be there as these religious fogies and as the conservatives would have you believe, then you would be crapping out the hormones. You'd be throwing up the hormones. They wouldn't be working in any capacity because your body would be getting rid of it. So obviously, since the hormones do work and they do change your, the body, so it's kind of just very interesting that all these people all of a sudden, oh, I want to detransition. Well, maybe you shouldn't have transitioned as far as hormonally in the first place. Maybe you're just non-binary. Maybe you're just part-time, and that's okay. You can be part of the spectrum. Transgender is a spectrum, and I think in media and in the news and everything else, we've kind of lost sight of that. Because the reason we've lost sight of that is because a lot of people that are transsexuals don't want to have to deal with arguing their standpoints, which I can understand to a degree because I'm a transsexual, but still I'm saying it's like, oh, I don't think that cross-dressers, I don't think the drag queens should be part of the transgender umbrella because they're different than us and XYZ. And true, it is different. It's not really the same. However, there's still some of the same issues that are, I guess, that go along with everyone. And it's just I think that people have lost that. Like everybody wants to call everything a mental illness because they don't want to deal with it. I think that a lot of people that transition, not that I would know, and not that I've done extensive research on the issue, but you know, it's kind of funny. Oh, all of a sudden, all these people that detransitioned are mentally ill in some way. Okay, your choices are your own. If you live that way and some people, if you live that way for 10, 15 years, you can't claim foul on the doctor 15 years later. Okay, you went to the doctor may or may not have told you something, but okay, if you're transgender in any kind of form, there's going to be people that are going to try to stop you, even if it's not the doctor itself. You can say, oh, the doctor didn't try to stop me. Well, guess what? I'm pretty sure your friends, some of your family, some of your colleagues probably did try to stop you. Even people that are trans. I mean, when I used to go on online forums and go to there's a place called, like, I think it still exists, called Susan's Place. And, people tried to stop me from doing it too a little bit. They were like, okay, are you sure you're trans because of XYZ? Only transition if you feel suicidal. And luckily I didn't take that advice because not saying everywhere I turned, but I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of, I guess, extreme support that I had. And so basically, the people on the forums told me to make sure that I really knew what I wanted to do before I did anything. So I don't see where this whole celebratory being trans is the next being cool kind of thing, and kids are just doing it just to be known that it's better to be that it's more cool to be known as trans than it is to be, I guess, just a cisgendered person. Cisgendered meaning people that don't suffer from gender issues at all. So it's just kind of, where are these kids? I mean, granted, I don't have children of my own. So I don't see what goes on in the public schools these days. But based on the conversations that I'm hearing that children have with their mothers, fathers, and other people in the grocery stores, I'm not seeing the issue here. So, I mean, obviously there's probably an agenda on both sides. Anyway, there's somebody always pushing some kind of agenda, whether it's the agenda people believe in or not. Where are these conservative people getting the information? And what I have noticed is that a lot of people that detransition are more on the female to male spectrum than the male to female spectrum. And that's very interesting to me. It's like, oh, when you see somebody, oh, that, former trans activist now turned, not really anti-trans, but is now warning against transition. It's, usually somebody that's female to male. And the guy from Holland, okay, he's mentally ill, but he was able to tell his side of the story, in an interview through a recording. So you weren't anxious about telling your own story about what happened to you. Maybe you were at first, but okay. And then people complain, oh, well, why isn't there support for people who want to detransition? Okay, here's probably why that is. Because you spent banging the drum for numerous years, because I doubt that anybody just gave you hormones after that, 2, 3 months of you claiming that you were trans. So, I mean, you probably were beating the drum for numerous years. The doctors gave you what you wanted to do or what you wanted, and everybody was like, cool, whatever, that's you, go for it. support, maybe you had support, maybe you didn't have as much support, but still, somehow you figured out a way to, get, say, to bypass the haters and so on and so forth. And now you're saying 15 years later, oh, I was mentally ill. Oh, I'm not, being trans is actually a delusional thing. And why isn't there support for me? Well, you made a big stink about transition, and so people kind of can't, aren't going to take you as seriously. I mean, that's just the fact of life. If somehow I want to detransition, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be that way. Maybe should be, there should be support for people that detransition. Obviously, it can be confusing, and some people probably are confused. And I've seen like a video out there like that went viral a little bit, like 6 months back about some trans female that was kind of just looking to fit in, and so therefore like she identified as a trans female, then just went off hormones willy nilly, then started to identify with other trans women again or something, which then would make her, I guess, cisgendered again, and then therefore she was like super excited about that. So I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that are confused that should see a therapist, and maybe transition is not right for them and they don't know it. But I'm saying if you're willing to fight that hard for something, it depends on which insurance company it is, and that's a big fight for certain things. That's why they want to say that because a lot of the gender dysphoria comes through physical dysphoria for a lot of people. I'm lucky to where it doesn't really bother me too much, probably because of having CP. I'm used to having people look at me funny and not being all physically, I guess, congruent. So while I still have issues, like I want to get done more hair removal, and that kind of is starting to bug me a little bit now, because for whatever reason, I'm starting to have hair growth again in places I don't want hair growth, somewhat. So, but hair removal is quite expensive. But I mean, there is that doctors have to write things a certain way so that insurance companies will accept what they're going to do. I was lucky that Maryland is pretty simple in regards to insurance and other things like that. But all I'm saying is you can't sit there and beat the drum one way and then claim mental illness, after you decide, oh, transition wasn't right for me after all, the doctor should have noticed. Well, why didn't you notice? Because even people that are mentally incapacitated in some form are not mentally all there. They know who they are. There's a guy I know in like a that pops on sometimes. There's a guy I know like in a wheelchair that I'm friends with on Facebook. I mean, I can tell from his voice clips and then his time, the way he types things, he's not all mentally there, but he still knows who he is. He still knows what he wants to do with his life. So I mean, even though he's not all there, he's not fully, I guess, mentally challenged to the point where he doesn't know anything. So I mean, if he knows himself, why is it the fact that, oh, all of a sudden I don't know myself, the doctors know me better than I do? Let's say that same letter that the guy said that back in 1989 that said that the one person wasn't trans, and let's say that the guy still transitioned and he enjoyed himself, then we would be calling that doctor that said that this person was not trans a quack, right? So it's kind of the doctor's fault for not letting you be on hormones because they're a quack and they don't know what they're talking about. But then when they let you do your thing and then you make the mistake yourself, oh, well, the doctor should have stopped me, right? So either way, I can see why there's not a whole lot of support when it comes to like doctor stuff and detransition, because either way, the doctor's ass is on the line. They can let you transition, and and if you regret it, you come back and attack them. If the doctors or the therapists, try to push on you harder or try to stop you in some form, then you're mad because you're not getting what you want. So either way, the therapists and the doctors are probably the biggest culprits here. I mean, yes, the reason why we're approaching the whole gender affirming thing and not doing it, we're not, it's not as hard as it used to be, is because we did that stuff for 50 years. The first, I think, trans operation was in 1950 something in Germany. We did the whole Harry Benjamin standards where you had to do like the real life test and dress the part, even though, not every woman likes to wear skirts and heels and so on and so forth. But I'm just saying, you know, I guess cisgender women don't have to sit there and be like, oh, I'm wearing skirts and heels. I'm actually a woman. They can still, they can wear t-shirts and jeans and get on with their life. So it's kind of weird that the Harry Benjamin standards, had this whole real life test, and it was like, oh, you need to present yourself as a woman for 2 years before you can start hormones. Okay, how is anybody supposed to really do that? I mean, I know people have done it, but how's anybody supposed to do that? If you don't have hormones helping you present better, and then it's kind of setting you up for failure. And that's why, activists like Count Perny Adams and Andrea James fought, the way that they have fought and, used a lot of their resources and a lot of their time trying to change everything. And then now you have all these detransitioners coming out saying, oh, trans isn't real and everything else. And just because I regretted my decision 15 years later means that a bunch of people that are going to be like me, maybe there are some people that are going to be like you, but it's just at the same time, not everybody that transitions regrets it. I mean, maybe there is a, higher population that, be bigger than 1%. That's probably true. Obviously, percentages are always skewed in some form, but you're the one that made the decision to transition in the first place. It's not the doctor. The doctor shouldn't be the one to sit there behind you. Hey, are you sure you're trans? Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? When you buy cigarettes the first time when you're 18 years old, 21 years old, does the guy at the counter sit there? Are you sure you want to smoke? Are you sure you want to smoke? Do you have to go to therapy to make sure you want to smoke before you do it? When you give people candy, are you sure you want that piece of candy? Are you sure you want that piece of candy? We don't have, gatekeepers for that stuff because, cigarettes and candy alter the body. But, as far as the hormones, which are kind of natural anyway, even if it's synthetic through pill and injections, patches, what have you, which everybody has. It's not like trans people are injecting themselves with stuff that, they're calling hormones that actually aren't. Like if I were taking like things that weren't estrogen or testosterone as a hormone, I'm pretty sure my body would be shitting all the time, pissing and throwing up because my body would be like, no, I'm rejecting it. Therefore, you're not really altering the body at all. You're just changing the input, and I guess, or you're changing the direction of, or the amount of estrogen versus testosterone. And that's basically all you're doing. So they call this alteration of the body, XYZ. I mean, if you want to do surgeries, that's up to you. And I understand that I'm very privileged as a trans person. First of all, I'm white because there's a the murder rate among non-white trans people is huge. I'm not going to sit there and present numbers, but also I'm short, and being 5'0" really does help. Not that I guess, quote unquote, pass all the time as a woman, but still, most people don't really bat an eyelash. I don't really have a huge Adam's apple because I'm not big. I'm not 6'2", and I don't have to sit there and tuck myself. Tucking is a method in which trans people, I guess either for male to females, they tuck their, I guess, genitalia inside their genital cavity again, so they can fit in their preferred clothing. So, for example, I can wear women's jeans without tucking myself, without pushing, testicles or a penis back inside my cavity, because I'm short and I'm short and I'm small enough to where I can wear pretty much what I want without an issue. And so I'll never be physically attacked because I'm due to being trans, unless I really egg it on. Because I'm short, people either see me as male or female, and maybe they even think that my disability impairs my judgment because that's the way people I guess able-bodied people think about those with disabilities. Is that, oh, since you're physically disabled, you must be mentally, I guess, incoherent as well. So I won't say anything to you. But I mean, that's changing, but it's still there. But I mean, I lucked out hardcore by living in the state of Maryland and by being short. The only thing I get really nervous about is like getting inside of pools because I'm still hairy. And not that I get an offer to go inside too many pools, but I got the offer like last week. I turned it down because not that I had a huge desire to go in a pool. I don't feel really, bent or I guess disgruntled with it, but I mean, okay, if I got invited to a pool party, I probably would turn down the invitation because I can't really get inside a pool due to my disability. Thanks, Kim. But I'm just saying. I mean, obviously, some people do, some people don't. Like, I mean, some people at restaurants when I go out to eat, the waitress or waiter doesn't. But then when I'm at the grocery store and somebody asks me if I need help, they say, she. And it's, I mean, again, this isn't like if I were still first year on hormones, it would bother me. But at this point in my transition, I don't even care if I'm called she, her, sir, whatever, I'm me and that's it. And it's time for people to that regret their own transition. If they do that, to sit there and stop calling trans a mental illness for being a former activist and turning against people and saying, "Oh, they're going against our kids. They're going inside of schools doing their thing." Hey Amber, how's it going? It's like, what thing? Granted, I know I'm not a parent and I'm not, part of the PTA, so I don't know what's going inside the schools. But I mean, the gender affirming thing is also because people committed suicide because they're trans, because nobody believed them, and so therefore, well, then I might as well kill myself since nobody believes me. That's why the whole gender affirming thing became I guess, the norm. Because people fought against it, again, like activists such as Andrea James, Calpurnia Adams, and I forget those, what, Lynn Conway. I know there's a few other people that I'm missing here, but I mean, well, when they perfectly okay, but I mean, I'm getting better with it. I'm not avoiding going outside because people call me sir or whatever. I mean, the physical dysphoria doesn't get to me as much, and that's okay. But it's just, this whole thing about, oh, we need to make sure that that people know the actual percentages of people that detransition XYZ. Oh, and that just because I detransition, that means that the other people are going to do the same thing. That's like me. Yeah, that's like me hating to eat pizza, which I love, by the way. But that's like me hating pizza. That's like five other people like eating pizza and saying, "Well, I mean, I got sick from the pizza, not because of any kind of food poisoning, but let's say that they just got sick of the pizza for whatever reason, and then going back and suing the restaurant because, oh, well, no one, people didn't stop me from eating the pizza, so therefore it's your fault. You didn't stop. That's like, a person that's got diabetes ordering a Coke at a restaurant and then, having an attack of some sort after he drinks the Coke, he or she drinks the Coke, and then suing the restaurant because, oh, no one told me not to, no one kept me from drinking the soda. It's like, okay, you know your body, whether you're mentally ill or somewhat mentally incapacitated or not. If you're that mentally ill to where you can't make decisions about your own gender and your own body, then obviously you need a caretaker to help you make financial decisions and to have you in like some kind of, I guess, assisted living to help wipe your butt because you can't do that. I'm not saying that those people, that there aren't people that are like that and those people that do need help. Some people don't get the help they need, and that's true. People do fall from the cracks. But if you're able to plan out what to tell the doctors to get on the hormones, if you're able to buy your own stuff, again, I know I'm being repetitive and it's a little annoying, but if you're able to do all that stuff, hey Vanna, how's it going? Then you're able to, enough to choose how you want to express your own gender. And if you take hormones, which are not, you can't just you know, once you take your first injection, your first pill, it's done. I mean, granted, estrogen takes a while for the differences to take effect, but still, once you tell your body to change everything around, or once you give the signals for your body to change everything around, that's it. You can't go back anymore. It's just you took the risk. That's all. Just like I'll never be able to I guess have children via bloodline because okay, I decided not to save my sperm anywhere at a sperm bank. I took the hormones and guess what? So if I feel guilty about, not being able to have kids biologically anymore, that's my own fault because over 5 years ago, I decided to sign a pink sheet that says, here's the risks of hormones. You're gonna lose your sperm. You can't really have, I guess, you know, and that's how it was. And we already advised you to go to a sperm bank to save your sperm so that if you want children, you still can have it in some form. But I can't go back to the doctor and be like, you didn't tell me XYZ, or I was too mentally incapacitated due to the basically what the people seems like they're complaining about is because I was so blinded by the bright lights, and I was so blinded by my own euphoria about transitioning that I didn't listen when people, started to question me, and therefore now that I see that now that reality is settling in, I'm blaming other people because I was too I didn't take a realistic approach or didn't temper my expectations, and so now I'm mad. That's just what it sounds like. Anyway, that's for the most part all I have to say on the subject matter. I'm going to be starting a new group on confidence with abilities. There could be people with disabilities as well as spiritual abilities. So I mean, I'm still working out a name for that group. I mean, I'll let everybody know when the time comes, which will be rather shortly. Thank you all for watching. I know it's late, especially for people. If anybody's dropped out by on the East Coast, it's like 11:30 Eastern time, 12 midnight. As always, keep pushing forward and stay epic.